Senator Turner, are you on the line?
I am. Good morning, Jodi and Melissa.
Good morning. You'll have to forgive me because this is my first time hosting a radio show, and I actually didn't know I was hosting till I got here. But I want to welcome you because you are truly one of the people I most admire in this country. And though we've never met, I'm really inspired by you. I want to ask you a few questions to help listeners understand what's going on in Ohio right now. We've heard a lot about Texas this week. Can you give us a sense of what the GOP attacks on women look like this week in Ohio?
Yes, Jodi, and thank you for your website, too. I like how you talked about fact-based. You know, the Republicans could do a lot to deal with the facts. It is really shameful that we have some members of the legislature practicing medicine without a license, and it's really coming down hard on women. So the budget bill, within that bill, they put in a lot of provisions that are really bad. It's loaded with a lot of anti-choice and limited health care options for women. For example, could close down 4 of Ohio's 12 abortion clinics, impose mandatory ultrasounds on women seeking abortions, and defund Planned Parenthood. It really makes it harder for women to get a medical emergency exemption to the state's 24-hour waiting period for an abortion if she chooses to have one. So they really, really are putting women's lives at risk. So that's just the budget bill, and why things like this would be tucked away in a budget bill doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's what they did in the dark of night because they were hoping that nobody was watching, but surprise, surprise, surprise. And Jodi and Melissa, I will tell you that hundreds of women and men showed up at the State House yesterday. NARAL was there, Planned Parenthood was there. People traveled from all over the state to stand up for women, and they delivered 17,000 letters to the governor yesterday.
That's fantastic. What are the implications of this bill for real women in the state, for women's lives, their health? What are some of the conditions that would result if these amendments to the budget bill were actually passed?
Well, hundreds of thousands of women will not have access to high-quality health care, and particularly in the rural parts of our state where they don't have as many options as women may have and their families may have in more urban areas of the state. So that's very real consequences. And we're talking about breast, mammograms and pap smears and all of the things that places like a Planned Parenthood would provide for women on the preventative side of the scale. Also for women, if a woman would need or chooses to have an abortion, her life could be absolutely in jeopardy. So they talk about caring for life, but that seems to stop when it comes to the woman. This stuff is real. We are not making it up. And then there's another bill that you may be familiar with that is even more extreme than that, and that is House Bill 200, which would make it a first-degree felony for doctors and a fine up to $1 million. They want doctors to give medically inaccurate information to women. For example, that getting an abortion will increase your risk of cancer, and just all kinds of things that do not make a whole lot of sense. This is serious, and this is about medical care, and that's what I want all folks, whether they're pro-choice or pro-life. This is about the legislature injecting itself between a woman and her doctor, and it is wrong, and it could cause the life of women.
Can you tell me, Senator Turner, can you think of any other instance in which legislators are actually forcing doctors to lie to patients?
No other medical procedures. I can't think of one. And to that point, any other profession that you could be threatened with a first-degree felony and $1 million fine for doing your job.
Unless you lie to a patient.
Unless you lie. And we had doctors there yesterday that talked about, how they rejected these measures and that it undermines their medical knowledge and also the relationship that they have with their patient. There's a confidentiality between doctor and patient. There's a trust there between the doctor and patient, and this undermines all of that. This is real, and it should be unacceptable to anybody that believes that people should have the right to control their own bodies. It doesn't get much personal than that.
Absolutely. Can you also speak a little bit to the efforts to diminish access to contraception, which would actually reduce the number of unintended pregnancies. My understanding from our reading of the different efforts in states across the country is that efforts to diminish access to safe abortion care come along with efforts to reduce access to contraception.
Oh, absolutely. And there are about 700 measures that have been introduced in state houses across this country in just the last few months, as if they're not real work to do. And you're absolutely right. People who call themselves pro-life, you would think that they would support efforts like Planned Parenthood and other family planning clinics to educate people, to give them what they need to plan a pregnancy if they so choose. But they want to stop not only abortion, which is the constitutional right that women have in the United States of America, but they also want to stop access to contraception. And it doesn't make sense to me. This is real. And there are going to be a lot of unintended pregnancies across this country, and they're really going to put a lot of stress on families. This is unfair, and it's immoral, in my opinion.
So what are you seeing in terms of the response to this effort by the legislature to hide these things in the budget? What are you seeing among the people of Ohio?
Oh, women have come out. I mean, there's a great social media effort. People have come out to let their voices be heard. Letters to the governor. There's a tweeting campaign to the governor at John Kasich, because now we don't have the power of the filibuster in the state of Ohio, unfortunately. So the ball is clearly in the governor's court. He can line item veto those bad provisions that are in the budget bill that do not belong, and that is really what we are calling on him to do. So that is where we go from here, is to keep the pressure on the governor, to give him, to make him think about this, and to ask him to use his power to line item veto these things so that women will have opportunities and choices. He is supporting Medicaid expansion. He is on the right side of that, and I am hoping that he will master the courage that it takes to go against his party. It's all GOP pushing this, and line item veto those measures that are in the budget. They do not belong there. They don't lift people in any way. They have no value to the citizens of this state other than to make it harder for women to get the health care, the high-quality health care that they need and they deserve.
Got it. So one last question. People around the country are already emailing us at RH Reality Check to ask us what they can do to help in Ohio and elsewhere. What would you be asking people around the country to do to help support the efforts in Ohio?
To please increase our social media push, to send a Twitter to the governor, to email him, to call him. The ball is in his court, and not in an accusatory way. The legislature did this, but the ball is in the governor's court, and he can take this out. And so we want to encourage him to take these measures out. They need to call the governor.
And what is his Twitter handle? Do you know that?
Yes, his Twitter handle is at John Kasich.
Kasich at JOHNKASICH. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. And is there a particular hashtag?
JOHN, right? Kasich.
Right.
Yes.
And
yes.
And in terms of the hashtag, is there a specific hashtag people should be using?
I haven't seen a hashtag, but hashtag line item veto would be a good one. And also for them to join my efforts at Nina Turner, NINATURNER, to keep that push, because I started that campaign last night, and that's what we need them to do, to call the governor's office as well in Columbus. They can look that up on Google. Right. I don't have the number right in front of me, but just to call, write, send an email. There is still time. The governor has until June the 30th, which is this Sunday, to sign that bill. He can do what it takes to spare women this and make sure that they have the medical care that they need.
Thank you, Senator Turner, for your efforts on behalf of women's health and rights, and for those others in Ohio who are doing this work. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jodi, so much.